Well, hello, I am back. I have taken a deep breath and I've calmed down from my first video, but I really wanted to get these posts done because really the Lord has had pressure on me all day to express my heartfelt concern about African Americans and our perspective and the pressure that some people, and myself included, are putting on African Americans, saying, how dare you support this president? How dare you be committed to standing and sharing the gospel and preaching the word and holding fast to God's requirement of us to pray for, to support the person in authority. And what kind of pushed me over the edge today, in my willingness to come and do this post, was I have been inundated. I've been inundated with text messages, instant messages on Facebook, posts. I had people posting stuff on my page, and some of it I deleted. And then after I deleted and was praying this morning, the Holy Spirit challenged me. He said, "You shouldn't have deleted it." And I was like, I apologize, Holy Spirit. I didn't ask you about that. I should have left it. But what the Lord began to speak to me about was the spirit of deception that has really impacted people of color. And I'm talking about, in particular, my people, African American community, as it relates to the Democratic Party and the liberal agenda. And in realizing that there is a deception taking place. We have been deceived. And for someone to be bold enough to message me repeatedly and say to me that I am crazy, I don't know God, I am deceived, that because I support the President of the United States, that I am deceived. Now, mind you, I could care less about Democrat, about Republican, about independent. As I mentioned in my prior video, this book, this gospel is what I care about. And what I have endeavored to build in the infrastructure of my walk with God is this truth. If it matters to God, it should matter to me. And if it matters to me, then I know it matters to God. So let me break down a couple of other things related to the nature of deception. So when you tell me that I am deceived, then that's saying, to what people don't realize is when you're deceived, you don't know it. So there are a couple of things that you need to do to guard against the spirit of deception. Number one thing that you need to do is, somebody can track this for me. The number one thing that you need to do to guard against a spirit of deception is acknowledge that you can be deceived. Anybody who says, they can never fool me. That's a lie. Anybody can be deceived. That's why Jesus said, "Be not deceived." Because if it wasn't possible for you to be deceived, then he would not have told you to guard against that. So the first thing that we all need to acknowledge is that there is a potential for deception on every side. Now, what is deception? Okay, deception is acts or statements designed to mislead you and to deflect you from the truth. What is this? So number one, everyone needs to acknowledge the fact that anybody can be convinced with an act or statements which are designed to mislead you and to deflect you or hide the truth from you. Now, what is the truth? So we're going to use this book. This book is one of my favorite little books. It's a little New Testament Bible. But this book is the truth. It is the word of God. John 17:17 says, "Thy word is truth." Now, in my prior video, and it's longer than this one, so it has more information, but I'm leading up to this. So number one, you need to acknowledge the fact that anybody can be deceived. So if you will openly admit that and acknowledge it, then it puts us in position to explore the truth so that we can get a basis in fact, so that once you have a basis in fact and truth concerning an issue, you are now in a position to guard against the spirit of deception. Let me say that again. You must first get to, one, acknowledge that you can be deceived, but then two, once you acknowledge that, it gives you permission within yourself to explore information that gives you a basis in truth. Now, I'm not talking about truth in terms of what somebody says. I'm talking about truth in terms of what God says. Okay? So once I get a basis in terms of what God says, I can now I can go and do more research and get more information so I can make a better and more informed decision. So one, acknowledge I can be deceived. Step number two is do your freaking homework. See, whenever the enemy keeps deflecting, and let's talk about deflection. So this is so any black person can tell you this, who's ever experienced racism. This is what white people do to black people. This is what and I grew up in Mississippi, so I know a little bit about racism, okay? So a lot of times what cultures would do to others, and they've done it to African Americans many times in the history of this country. Let's say, for example, they'll say, well, everybody should vote. So when black people got the right to vote, then they say, oh, wait. You can't just go to the polls and vote. We're going to put a stumbling block. So what we're going to do, you got to pass a test. So before you can vote, you got to pass this test. So then before black people could go, they had to go study all this information so they could pass the test, right? Okay, they did that. Then when they got ready to go vote again, after they passed the test, wait. You can't go. You got to pay a poll tax. You got to pay a poll tax. So then they get their money together, and the black people get all their money together so they can pay the poll tax, okay? And so then they get ready to go vote again, and they say, oh, wait. You got to be at the polls at 6:57. If you don't get by 6:57, you can't vote because you're too late to the poll. And so what they would do to people of color historically is they would put all of these stumbling blocks, one right behind the other. Now, remember in the last video I told you about the spot? That what the enemy's endeavor to do to deceive you is that he will keep you focused on something, and he will zero in on it and make you see that and make that big dot as if that is your reality. So when they would do all of these things to deceive African Americans, what African Americans would do is they would go and they would do it, okay? Well, a part of the deception is then they would turn around and say, well, you did, and they said, well, I couldn't vote. What do you mean you couldn't vote? You couldn't get to the polls at 6:50. You couldn't pass the test. You couldn't do this. They would do all of these things to keep tripping us up so that we could not advance. That's wrong, right? Don't you guys agree that is wrong? But do you guys not realize that with what I am describing as the Democratic deception, that is exactly what the Democratic Party has done to this president from the day that he arrived in office? One thing right behind the other. They have thrown things in his path. First they lied and they did this whatever the thing was with Mueller. And they kept that going. And they threw that ball in his way. And they kept America looking at that ball saying, don't you see what he did? Don't you see what he did? Don't you see what he did? And then when that didn't work, then they attacked the Flynn issue, whatever that was all about. I don't understand all the details. And here again, they came and they zeroed in. This is what the Democratic agenda has done to people of color in this nation, because there are things they don't want us to see. So if they keep you deceived and keep your attention over here, then they deflect you and hide the truth. So after that first thing with the Soviet mess, after that didn't work, they said, look at the Soviets. He did this with the Soviets. Not even mentioning John Biden's own son, who didn't know squat from diddly, got contracts over there with the same people that they're accusing the president of having a relationship with and doing crazy stuff with. And the same man, his own son, getting paid millions of dollars, the party that you people, my brother included, been telling me I need to vote for them. So just like they've done to black people in this country, throwing one thing in your path to trip you up each time, that's what they've done to this man. And yeah, I know a lot of people are not going to like me for telling, but I got to tell the truth. This is a truth season, and we must acknowledge the truth. So when the scandal with with the young man, his whatever the guy was, I can't remember his name. When that didn't work, then when the Russian thing didn't work, then they threw another thing. Okay, so that's like, okay, so you gotta pay a poll tax. Okay, so when that didn't work, then they came up with something else. They said, oh, well, you got to do this, and then they lied about that. Okay. And then after that didn't work, then they came up with this whole coronavirus. Now, again, I am not saying the coronavirus is not real. But folks, if the coronavirus was as dangerous as people have been saying, do you honestly think that millions of people would have been out in the street over this past week? And most of them, I'm sure, are home and they are just fine. Now, I am not saying that people did not die and that this was not a horrible virus, but the cure was far worse than the malady. Because the cure was designed to destroy the best economy for African Americans that we have had in decades. And so when the coronavirus didn't work, okay, so once the coronavirus didn't work, we have a staged, and I'm going to say it like I believe his murder was set up. I believe it was staged. I believe it was timed. And I believe it was designed to do what deception does. Deception, it works best and it is most effective when it is targeted towards people who have a tendency towards a high emotional state. And most African Americans, we get real excited. Like right now, I'm real excited. And I'm big because I feel like I got to tell the truth. This is a democratic deception because they are trying to keep us from seeing things that really matter. Now they tell, and I believe it. George Floyd's murder was wrong. All the names of all the African Americans that have been on the post course is wrong. It's wrong for police to put his neck on somebody and choke the life out of him. It's wrong for police to beat somebody. It's wrong for people to hang some. It's wrong. All of it's wrong. But don't tell me that is more important and that is more wrong than the politically structured systematic murder of 19 million African American babies in this nation, with the disproportionate percentage of abortions being done at over 35% of African American women. That is genocide by any other name. And if it was happening anywhere else besides this country, and under any other guise, and we have this whole thing with Planned Parenthood, they are killing our babies systematically. And then you turn around and tell me that I need to vote for the party that is supporting genocide of my people? No. Now remember, it's not that I'm so much a Trump supporter. What I care about is who is coming as close to this book and the things that matter to God as I can get. And I ain't saw a single Democratic candidate at not one express concern for the 19 million black babies that have been aborted in this nation, and a party that you telling me I need to leave somebody who's doing something about what matters to God and matters to me, and that I need to leave there and come over here and get with people just because I'm African American? How dare you say of me that if I don't vote Democratic, I ain't black? Who the crap do you think I am? That ain't true. So the deception is designed to deflect our attention from the things that have a basis in truth. Now, what is the truth? We're not talking about the truth that someone says. We're talking about the truth of the gospel that God wrote. I am mostly directing this to the people of faith, pastors, preachers, teachers, who are in churches every Sunday, talking about how bad this president is and all the evil he's done and all the wrong he's doing. Yeah, he's made some mistakes. I'm not going. But let me tell you, it's something to be said about the one you know. Okay, there's something to be said about learning to deal with the one you know, because the one you don't know, and so let's use that for a moment. The one you don't know. Now, Joe Biden was in office he was a vice president for 8 years, and the vice president to a black president. If in fact, when he gets on air and says to people, oh, I'm going to, if I'm president, I'm going to set up a committee to help bring the police together. Well, you were with the black president for 8 freaking years. If you were going to do that, if it was really in your heart, you would have did it when you were in the White House. Why should we believe that now? Why should we believe it now? What am I talking about? I am talking about the democratic deception of black America. The deception is in that people have been people have been messaging me, telling me how I can't believe you support Trump. I can't believe you stand for Trump. I can't believe he's wicked, he's evil, and I'm saying it's a lie. It's a deception. Yeah, he got some faults, but ain't a president been up there that didn't have something wrong with him. There's not a president been in the White House that didn't have issues. It's not a president that been in the White House that didn't have a perspective that was not consistent with parts of this book. But don't tell me that I need to stop supporting this president simply because what the Democratic liberalistic media, the CNN, what they have done to this president is exactly what they have done to African Americans in this country. They consistently have thrown one thing in his path right behind another to trip him up, to stall him, to break it down, to mess him up, to thwart him. And then when he messes up, when he's coming and say something stupid, and he said a lot of stupid stuff, I ain't gonna say that. When he turn around and say something stupid after you and tripped up, he said, see there. That's what they do to black people. They said, what do you mean you couldn't get to the polls to vote? Don't you know that the polls close at 6:57 and not 7 o'clock? Don't you know that you have to pay a poll tax? That's what they have done to black people the whole time we've been in this nation. They put one obstacle in our way right behind the other to prevent us from being successful. And then they take our flaws, our faults, our mistakes, and they put them out front. And they say, do you see how bad those black people are? That's what we have done to this president. And it's wrong. It's wrong to do it to African Americans, and it's wrong to do it to this president. It's wrong to do it to anybody. African Americans deserve equal opportunity under the law. We deserve equal access. We deserve equal footing. We shouldn't have to do what my parents taught us to do. I shouldn't have to study to score 110 on the test when I know all it takes is 85. But since I know the prejudice teacher was going to score my test and score my paper harder, I had to make sure as an African American female that I was better than white people, that I scored higher than white people, because those same white people were going to do everything they could to keep me back. And that's just the reality of living in this country. Now, a lot of black people won't say that to y'all white folk, but it's the truth. It's what we were taught. We were taught that we had to work harder, be better, and if the minimum to get to something was 20, we knew we had to do 25 because there were going to be white people working to mess us up. That 20 wasn't enough for us because we were black. We had to make it higher. And it was wrong. It's wrong. So the deception then is to say, since you couldn't measure up, when in reality, we weren't doing any worse than anybody else. We were actually, if you scored it right, doing better. And in reality, this president, is not that he's done so much wrong, it's that the yardstick has been moved and that so many stones have been thrown in his path. The whole time he's been in office, the man has had all kind of foolishness and craziness to deal with. First, they try to impeach him. And then, what's that? Nancy Pelosi. And she sits on the documents for 2 weeks. This is crazy. And that is the Democratic agenda. These are the people that you guys keep messaging me, texting me, flagging me, telling me that I need to jump the line and come over there with them. As my girlfriend, Belinda Zeno would say, hell to the no. And that's just how I feel about it. Don't tell me that I need to jump the line. When people have done to him what they've done to African Americans in this world, I've watched it. I grew up here. I was born in Mississippi. I was born in the most racist state in the Union. I grew up in it. So I know a little bit about racism. And yet, this state has changed. This is the only place in the United States that I would like to live. I love it here. I love my community. But we got to stop being deceived. So the first thing that you have to do, because the nature of deception is designed to show you don't know you're being deceived. So if we will acknowledge that, yeah, you know what, I can be deceived. That's step one. But step two is to do your homework and get the facts. And first of all, you need to know the truth. And the truth begins with knowing what matters to God. So some of the things that matter to God, I said in the last video, what matters to God is life. God loves life. He is the author of life, and life matters to him. So one of the things that the Democratic agenda has been doing is to deflect African Americans from the issue of abortion, because African Americans, of the 50 some odd million abortions, 19 million of those, approaching 40% of those abortions, have been African American women. We are the ones who are disproportionately victimized by the whole abortion agenda. Those are our babies that they're taking their organs. They do a partial birth abortion, and then they take. Those are our babies. Those are black babies. So that matters to me. You know why? Because it matters to God. So don't tell me that I need to live. The only president in recent years that I know of that's done anything about the 19 million abortions of black babies is this president. So you ask me why I'm over here. Well, if it matters to God, it matters to me. Jesus says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. And he tells us to protect life. He challenges us to guard life. It's valuable. Babies are valuable. Black babies are valuable. They matter to God. So don't tell me that I should not support a president who cares, who is doing something to support the life of those babies, and then go over here to a group of people who don't give a rat's tail about them. So that's it. Number one, acknowledge that you can be deceived. Next, get the truth. Not the truth of what somebody tells you, because what somebody tells you can be rooted in propaganda. The truth of what somebody tells you, the truth is the word. What matters to God is life. If the Democratic Party really cared about black people, they would not support the cause of 19 million abortions of black babies. Now, you got just over 50 million abortions since 1972, but 19 million of them, over 35%, are African Americans. Don't tell me you care about me. Don't tell me you love me and you care about what matters to me. Don't tell me that I need to stop supporting this president because he's racist. Well, what's more racist? You know, there's a parable in the Bible somewhere about it. It says, who is worse? The man who you ask him to help you, and he says, I'm not helping you. And then he walks away and he goes, oh, wow, you know what? I should really help him. And then they come back and they help you, even though in the beginning they said they wouldn't. Or the man who says, will you help me? And then he goes, sure, I'll be glad to help you. Let me give you a hand. I'll be right back. And they walk off and they never come back. Which one is the one who is your real neighbor? See, that's what the Democratic agenda has done to people of color since we've been here. They said, we're on your side. We're here for you. All the while, 19 million babies gone. Don't tell me you love me when you got genocide happening and nobody, not one person on the Democratic, not one person cares about 19 million black babies. Not one. I have not seen a single person on the Democratic ticket that cares about that. I'm just saying. So I'm going to stop this video. So what are the So number one, acknowledge that you can be deceived. Number two, get the truth. The truth begins with this book, the gospel. What matters to God? What is on his agenda? What does he care about? And then once you get that truth, now number three, you will go and explore facts for both sides that support what God cares about. Because in the end, whatever God cares about will always be for the good of the people he created. So number one, yes, I can be deceived. You can be deceived. We can be deceived. How do you guard against that? Number one, start with the truth. Get the truth. What matters to God? Look at every political issue. You get your Bible out. You get that political issue out. And what does God say about it? And then you look at what your party says about it and what they're going to do about it. And then wherever it lines up, you go, oh, they care about life. God cares about life. Check. Oh, they care about the poor. God cares about the poor. Check. You go, you do your homework. Yes, Carrie, that's right. God created it. By him were all things made, and without him was not anything made. He created all life. He cares about life. So you do those three things. And now here's the other last thing on this. Number 4, you measure it by the rule of love. Because scriptures say, we go, where does it start? Truth. John 17:17. It starts in love. When a person approaches me in a spirit of anger and bitterness and hatred, and you tell me that because I support this president that I am stupid, you tell me because I support this president I am evil, you tell me that because I support this president I am ungodly, and you are supposed to be a Christian, and you tell me that just because I do what the gospel says to pray for those that the powers that be are ordained of God, and you so-called man of God tells me that I am deceived. The number one measure for deception is when anything comes from God, it will always be measured by the rule of love. Now, there's scarcely a person on this planet who can tell you that Stella is hateful and mean. Now, I can be, but I choose not to. Why, Kenya? Why do I choose not to? Because of this. This is the truth. And the truth challenges me to be the higher version of myself that I can be. And in order to do that, I have to decide what party I'm going to support based on what I feel like they're doing that complies with this book, that gives us access to the life that Jesus said, the will of the Father is. He says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Is there abortion in heaven? So if it's not the will of God in heaven, how dare we as people of God, ministers of the gospel, preachers, pastors, teachers, how dare we? How dare we? How dare we ignore 19 million black babies aborted and the political party that says it's okay? God is not about the system. He's about the word. So what am I talking about today? And I may need to do another video too. I'm talking about the democratic deception of African Americans, where we have been deceived. People and Joe Biden's slip of tongue was really a truth that they believe. They believe that black people are stupid enough to think if I'm black, I need to vote Democratic. Democrats genuinely believe that they have us sold up like that. And that is why I am challenging my people, my brown and black people. Do your homework. Deception has a strategy. It is a statement, an act designed to mislead you and to deflect you from the truth of what matters to God. What matters to God is life. Here's another one. What matters to God is the nation of Israel. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I don't care nothing about Israel. We'll get on that on my next video. I'm going to break this one up, and I'll be back right after this. Till then, you make it a terrific day.